masters, things that are not easily one for one. But it's pretty standard blue-white control, and he's playing what I would definitely play 100%, which is a one of Rune Channer's Pike to give you that reach you need against these opposing Garrick's control mirror matches that can go to the wee hours of the morning. You really need to have a one-shot ability there. So I really like the blue-white control deck with one Pike. Very entertaining.
Yeah. And so this, historically, Naya Blitz, not really the deck you would want to see playing a deck like blue-white control. You can short things up at your sideboard, but game one, particularly if you're on the draw, you're often just kind of at the mercy of what their opening looks like.
Exactly, and having main deck dissipates, Essence Scatter, usually pretty dead against them. A lot of times they'll have a Cavern of Souls as just a simple fixer for themselves, because this is a cast pretty much every card in the deck. And then, speaking of which, we have a Cavern of Souls right now, so pretty much every counterspell in Steve's hand is pretty null and void.
So Gene leads off with a Cavern on Human into a Boros Elite, and Steve has a Hallowed Fountain. So both the decks off to their signature land drops. Gene on second turn with an untapped Sacred Foundry.
Gene really can't hang around here.
Burning Tree Emissary into a Lightning Mauler, which will soulbound and attack for 7. And Steve with but a Hallowed Fountain in play, already facing down the barrel of a gun here from Gene.
We really see the benefit of this deck. This is what the deck can do. It can just put board states which are unwinnable. Right now, I'm not saying Steve is, dead in the water here. He does have 2 Terminus in his deck, which, if miracled, obviously would put Gene in a world of hurt. But we see a Verdict in his hand. Can he survive to that Verdict? That's really the question.
He has both Verdict and Detention Sphere, so he might be able to... and a Snapcaster for this turn, so he might be able to...
He might be able to live through this. And obviously he's going to go with our plan here. He's going to be snapping in a little blocker here. Flash Bear. Alright, let's see if Gene can add to this already pretty intimidating board state. This is another Lightning Mauler, maybe? This is coming to play tapped. All creatures on the opponent's side does. He's going to respond with Snapcaster. Here we go. Yeah, impose. He will not impose the Snapcaster who comes in prior to imposing Sovereign Resolving. And here comes the team here. I think Steve blocks one of the 2-power creatures that he can trade with because he has Detention Sphere to stall some more. And obviously you want to get your best bang for your buck here.
Yeah, Lightning Mauler has got to be the guy to hit the bin. If you were to block the Burning Tree Emissary, then you reopen Sloban and usher in perhaps an even worse threat the following turn.
Yeah, if Steve was on the play, he might even block the 3-power guy here, just setting up for the Verdict. But yeah, here you definitely want to trade because you're going to at least get hit one more time before your Verdict's going to come in and clear the board here. I think Gene only has, 2 cards left in his hand, and you're going to see, again, the risk and benefit involved in playing a deck like Naya Blitz.
Oh, that's a huge miracle Terminus for Steve.
Don't even need cards in hand currently.
And now Steve has gone from in a ton of trouble to possibly in the clear, assuming that Gene doesn't have a big follow-up here.
Yeah, right. Look at Steve. He was going to Detention Sphere one of the 2-power guys and take 3, go into 5, which is extremely low. That's if Gene had nothing to add to that. Let's say he has a Mayor in his hand and a red card. I can't see the red card. If that red card's a Lightning Mauler, really... I don't know if Steve has a 4th land. No, he does not.
Is that a Moorland Haunt?
I can't tell that very last card. It could be.
So we see
it is a Lightning Mauler, so here we are. We are finishing our all-in here.
This is going to knock Steve down to 4. But he does not have...
Does he have boards? No spells in It's all creatures,
it's just lands and creatures.
Okay.
So he has a little bit of haste again with
He does.
He drew
an island, so even if that wasn't Moorland Haunt, he drew the 4th land necessary. I don't think... Let's take a look at his hand again. I don't know... Is that a Moorland Haunt? I think you might be right. I see Resto Angel, Detention Sphere, whatever that card is. They have Rune Channer's Pike.
Lightning Mauler, that's a big draw for Gene there. It makes a lot more of his draws live. Steve's still fairly low, but Gene's deck not much in the way of reach. Again, no spells, really only the Lightning Mauler as a haste threat, and so Steve can kind of keep his head above water just trading off here.
Yeah, I like where Steve is right now. I like his position here. He's pretty tough for Gene to come out of this without a few runners here.
And so he has the option of either using Restoration Angel to try to block the Lightning Mauler and ambush it. He can play the Detention Sphere and save the Restoration Angel for a later threat. It looks like he's going to go with a Detention Sphere on the Mauler.
I think you're right about the land, and it was a Ghost Quarter, which is pretty similar to what Moreland
Oh, that's
likes.
a Ghost Quarter,
Yeah,
not a Moreland Haunt. Okay.
close enough. Definitely, he had the 4th land the whole time, so.
I really like this play from Steve. I think you want to play the Restoration Angel kind of as your last card,
Right.
because you're more likely to induce Gene into attacking with something.
Right.
If you say go with 4 cards in your hand, that's much less likely to be the case.
Exactly, and you don't want to say go anyway, because if he draws something that complements the Lightning Mauler very well, Steve doesn't know what's in Gene's deck. It could be a Boris Reckoner off the top, even though it's not really
Warclad
human.
Rampager,
Warclad, something like
perhaps?
that. Yeah, you're not going to get full value out of that Resto Angel. So might as well take away the Mauler and then leave Gene with even less outs, if you will. I think that Ghost Quarter is actually a strip mine in this matchup.
No basics.
Just a fun thing to know.
Frontline Medic off the top for Gene.
If I was Steve, I would Ghost Quarter him right now to see if Gene has a basic land. Because with that knowledge game too, you can just win a game when they have a 2-land hand and you just Ghost Quarter them. This deck is super fragile on their mana base.
Yeah.
So you definitely, before Steve locks his game up, if he goes to win this game, you should definitely Ghost Quarter and see if Gene has no basics.
Let's see, Steve. Put the Pike on the Restoration Angel.
Yeah, people don't know that too. The Ghost Quarter can just be so many decks, just devastating.
And that's a very subtle thing. You know, I'm not much of a control player, obviously. I wouldn't have even thought of testing the waters there to see if that was the thing.
Yeah, it's one of those Hail Mary plays, but then again, I've played against Blitz more than any other deck, really, frustrating as it can be. And I know that their land base gives no leniency for basics. All right, so Steve's going to say go. Pretty much has a super powerful Resto Angel. But then again, Gene with a Rampager here could put a hurting on Steve.
He doesn't even have. He does not have access to that card in his deck. He has Fire Fist Striker, which is his best tool to get out of this spot.
Right. And it looks like Steve confidently really doesn't have much gas left. He was holding Think Twice land, and it looks like he drew an Essence Scatter, which is going to be pretty worthless here with the Cavern of Souls looking at him.
Well, now going back to what you spoke of, we can.
Right. Oh, we can Ghost Quarter, yeah, and then make sure it does something. Yeah, I like that. So even if Steve doesn't see the subtle play of Ghost Quarter to test the waters, now he has a direct interest in doing so.
Yes.
He's holding another Cavern, it looks like. I think he's holding. Obviously, he's holding all land, because if he draws any creature, he's going to play it.
So Steve going to use this opportunity to flash back a couple copies of Think Twice. Steve untaps, now with a reasonably restocked hand. Finds a Snapcaster Mage, which is a very potent pairing, obviously, with the Supreme Verdict in his graveyard.
Yeah, I think Steve is on a quest here for Sinister Revelation to really close the game out. At this point, obviously, he's still fine. Gene has drawn 1 spell in 4 turns, which has put Steve still in the driver's seat here.
The biggest thing is Steve's still not in a position to attack, and at a low life total, he needs to ideally find something that allows him to stabilize the board and then allow him to quickly pressure Gene.
Right.
You don't want to give him an unlimited number of draws, and again, Steve doesn't know this, but we know he doesn't know the lack of spells in Gene's deck, but certainly Gorklan, Rampager, potentially Boros Charm, things that he is in theory worried about, and so it's kind of incumbent on him to try to end this thing as quickly as he can.
Right, and Steve again draws another Supreme Verdict, so those cards you mentioned, he really doesn't have much answer to those. He just has a bunch of sorcery removal spells at this point. And of course, he's going to use a Ghost Quarter here. That's good, so he's going to find out that Gene has no basic lands. Gene's going to fail to find here. He's not even going to search, it looks like. So knowing that, Steve is packing 2 Ghost Quarters. So game 2, that can really come into play here as Strip Mine. I mean, Strip Mine's not around for a reason, right?
No. it has historically made Magic a lot less fun, not more.
Right.
When a lot of strip mines are involved in the average game, it's generally...
Yeah, it's definitely the killer of cube decks I've seen before too.
Yeah.
People, no one likes to have their land removed for the cost of 0 there. So Gene, strip mined here. Obviously, as a control mage, I want to see Steve really strip mine him game 2. Not to get biased here, but just it's something you don't see every day. It's pretty fun for a control deck to do that.
Yeah, Steve's deck obviously has a lot more use for mana, but Gene's deck is very color mana sensitive, and Cavern is a specific threat that you want to be handling as well.
Exactly. I like Steve's board right now. It has the quad hollowed fountain. Looks beautiful over there. And Gene has another Caverns, which again will render Essence Scatter and Steve's hand useless. A lot of people like the 2-mana counter spells against these blitz decks. I think I would still board them out just because of the 4 Cavern Souls.
I think they have the potential to be potent when you're on the play if they don't have Cavern, but that's a very specific window. But it does shut off certain Burning Tree Emissary draws, so it has moments of being very good, but overall is a pretty dubious proposition.
Yeah, it's definitely a liability. I think it's Steve here. He's going to attack into a Verdict here. I don't think he's feeling safe now that there's 2 creatures on board.
Yeah.
Being at 4 life is a little too dangerous to let that stick.
Especially since specifically one of them is Frontline Medic. It means that a haste creature that Gene draws there is potentially very dangerous because he can just ship for free, and the Angel on defense doesn't whittle down any of the board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Gene draws. I don't know. It's pretty much at this point, whatever Gene draws, he will tap his lands and he'll play it. If he doesn't draw anything, then he'll just say go, which it looks like he is saying go here.
Yep.
Looks like he's just playing a Snapcaster for fun here. I don't know if I do that, but...
Well, again, he's still very susceptible to spells. He has no counters in his hand for a theoretical Boros Charm.
I think he might be trying to finish him off here, which is understandable.
He's got a lot of Rads and Essence Scatters to play with. It's not like he has a shortage of that kind of effect that he needs with Snapcaster. And if I were in Steve's position, I would be trying to win the game kind of quickly here because there's a lot of cards you're potentially exposed to.
Only problem, he did draw Augur, so it makes this play a lot better. I think it was a little bit dangerous otherwise. So say if Gene draws creature X, Steve would be forced to either hold Snapcaster back the second time around or Wrath, which I don't think you want to do there. But it looks like he draws Augur, which leaves Gene to even less outs than anticipated before. Now there's just no card in his deck he can draw here to get him out of this, because Gene has to pretty much chump block here. Yeah, he knows this.
Yep. So that's game. Game 1 goes to Steve there. Gene was a little light on action as the game progressed, but that Miracle Terminus early in the game gave him the breathing space to do everything he needed to do. Steve's draw in the mid game there was actually pretty below average. I mean, he didn't find a Revelation, he didn't find another Restoration Angel to increase his clock, but
he drew a lot of cards too. A lot of Think Twices, a lot of kind of just sitting around with all these sorcery speed removal spells. And again, I'm glad I pointed out Pike at the beginning of the match. It shows you if you don't want to sit around and you don't want to go the slow, grindy control winning route, you're going to have to play one of those or to just clock them for lethal.
So moving on to our sideboard options here, what do we have in Steve's sideboard?
We have Terminus, which is an auto-include. He has 3 copies of Celestial Purge, which will be the last time he can play a card like that. And then he has 2 more copies of Detention Sphere. So it looks like he's going to bring in all those cards, 5, and then the Terminus, which leaves 6. Cards to board out, of course, would be the 4 counter spells. So you only need to board out 2 more cards, and it's obviously going to be Rune Chair's Pike will be the 5th sideboard card, and then probably 1 Think Twice. So I board out Think Twice, Pike, 2 Dissipate, 2 Scatter for the 6 removal spells.
You're not an advocate for taking out the single Aetherling in this deck?
I like Aetherling in this deck because it's a little better than Pike, I think, and it's borderline otherwise. I think Aetherling on 6 mana, you just slam it down, it's a 4/5 and you can't get through it. So it's kind of like the best creature he could possibly defend with. It's basically a 4/5 wall for 6, which is not too bad against this matchup here. I think if you can argue the 4th Think Twice, the last one, or the Aetherling here, but I don't like having 4 Think Twice against this aggro deck anyway. A lot of times you don't have time for all that. So
fair enough. All right, on Gene's side of the sideboarding here, he has 3 copies of Thalia, which are excellent, obviously, against Steve's primarily spell-based blue-white control deck, though much more potent on the play than on the draw.
Card is a nightmare. That is a great card against control decks.
3 copies of Boros Charm, which gives him a little bit more reach, also is a powerful answer to Supreme Verdict. So I would anticipate those cards coming in.
I think he's actually might bring in a Ray of Revelation also. Seeing the Attention Sphere, bringing in 1 maybe. I mean, there's not many other reasons why you have Ray of Revelation in the sideboard when you're a Blitz deck. Thinking about enchantments that are problem enchantments, pretty much would be the Bant Hexproof decks you bring in, of course, against, because you can't beat Armadillo Cloak, whatever the reprint's called. But also Detention Sphere, knowing blue-white control is straight blue-white control, you have to assume he's going to have 2 and then probably 3 or 4 after blue.
Yep. And if I'm in Gene's position, I'm not a huge fan of some of the 2-power 2-drops because they match up poorly with Augur Bolas. So I was probably looking to dump either some mixture of Lightning Ballers and Fire Fist Strikers. Those cards can both have situations of being pretty powerful, but especially on the draw, I would be more inclined to try to hedge against Supreme Verdict a little bit more.
Right.
Both of those cards both force you to play into Supreme Verdict and match up very poorly against Augur Bolas. So I'd probably move there for cards to remove.
I agree completely. And the only reason I don't like aggro decks that bring in reactive spells like Ray of Revelation, where it's pretty dead unless they have the enchantment draw, the reason why I like it in Gene's case is because control players will have a false sense of security. When I'm playing against Blitz and I Detention Sphere or something, I assume it's gone for the game and I'll tap out and I'll do my things. And end of turn Ray of Revelation could be absolutely lethal on the swing back, even better than say a Boros Charm in some situations. So.
Sure. So yeah, Gene has access to there are a lot of 2-1s in his deck. Between the 3 Imposing Sovereigns,
that card is actually very bad against. I think that's the first card to come out in this matchup. Just because Augur Bolas comes into play tapped, that's only in a very specific circumstance of you playing that on turn 2, or most of the time you're going to have a Burning Tree Emissary. Hopefully that's the draw you want, and your turn 2 play will not have access to the white mana.
In my experience, like when I've been playing aggressive decks, one of the cards I concern myself most with out of these blue-white decks is Restoration Angel, because a 3/4 flash blocker is bigger than anything that you have, and he doesn't have Rampager in his list to push past it. Yeah. So I actually think it might have more, as you see, it appears Gene is taking a mulligan here. I think that Imposing Sovereign is definitely lower in power level than the other 2/1s in the abstract, but I would be looking to have my creature base set up a little bit better against Supreme Verdict, which Mauler and the Fire Fist Striker play poorly into, and then Restoration Angel is a specific problem case.
I agree.
Card.
I think I don't know if I'd cut all the Imposing Sovereigns. I definitely would cut all the Fire Fist Strikers. I think Mauler gives you those nut draws that you kind of need with Blitz. But yeah, you definitely, the 2/1s are the first that have to go. Yep. Probably the full set of Fire Fist Strikers and some amount of Imposing Sovereigns.
So Gene opens with the signature Naya Human draw of Cavern of Souls on Human and Champion of the Parish.
Do you see a second land?
You see Steve play an Azorius Guildgate on the first turn. That's a Singleton Guildgate.
Does not look like he has a second land.
Yeah, he does. Crag.
Oh, I see it. There it is. There it is. So he does not have the mana, obviously, for his turn 2 human draw here.
And this was the thing that got me in the PTQ that I played 9 humans in, is the old Cavern M10 dual land draw.
Yeah, it's rough, man. Here's your Augur Bolas. And again, you see this 1/3 here. So Gene's 2/1s here, the Lightning Mauler that he knows is in hand, is going to be rough to have any kind of impact on the game.
Yeah, and Augur into Supreme Verdict is
you never want to see that.
Messy sequence for an Eye Humans.
Yeah, the Blitz player seeing that is very disheartening. You know now what the eventuality is, and you have to play around it. But how much can you really play around it when you have a bunch of little guys like that against an Augur Bolas? You have to put more guys on the board.
Yep, it is the squeeze.
It is, yeah. Aggro nowadays, especially looking at Blitz, is a lot more all-in than I remember it being. Those red decks, after Goblin guys are hitting you and stuff and you Verdict, it's not over yet. This is, I don't want to say it's over, but it's rough.
Yeah, it has much less reach than a lot of these decks.
Right. Then again, those red decks aren't killing you on turn 3. They're putting you to 14 or so, but then again, it's a strong 14 with a bunch of powerful spells to back it up.
So you see a Burning Tree Emissary and a Frontline Medic here for Gene, which is a nice setup. He gets to have a couple attackers in play that can push past the Augur. He gets to attack for 3 this turn.
If Gene hits a Boros Charm here, this will be a game.
And you see Steve with the immediate chump block. He's clearly playing this game trying to set up Supreme Verdict on 4 to get the most value out of a Miracle Terminus if he's able to find it, and so...
Right. This is going to be exciting. I mean, obviously I want my control decks to do well, but here, if Blitz player draws, if Gene draws a Boros Charm, we're going to have a real game here. It's going to be probably going to game 3 if that's the case.
Thalia as well could be a devastating.
Thalia is another good one, you're right. I don't know what it's in his hand. I just haven't had a chance to see. I think I saw a Lightning Mauler. I'm not sure, but maybe not. We'll see what happens here.
So we see an Azorius Charm on the champion. Again, just trying to give himself a little more breathing space.
That's probably one of the better cards against Champion of the Parish. I see a red card. Do you see? I just don't know.
So Gene came across the table for 5 damage and contemplating adding this board potentially next after combat. But there is an argument now that he gets to draw a Champion of the Parish, pair it with Lightning Mauler post Wrath, and
really punish Steve here. I think we verdict here.
Steve clearly agreed with you. He just drew his 1 of Aetherling.
Here comes a 4/5 big guy in a couple turns. He could Resto Angel too here. Actually, yeah. He's. I didn't see his hand. Yes, I think he has 3 copies of Resto Angel in his hand. You definitely say go here then, which makes Gene have to know. He has to assume he has Resto Angel in his hand. So Gene, knowing this, is going to play a main phase Champion of the Parish, but he's not going to pair with anything. So here comes the Resto Angel. He had to see this coming. I don't know.
Very aggressive attack here from Gene.
It's pretty much clear cut. If Steve has 4 up after showing verdict and does not verdict, there is a 100% chance of Restoration Angel. So I don't know if Steve saw that. Excuse me, if Gene saw that.
Steve's going to follow the 12 from the Burning Tree Emissary coming across.
This is looking very rough for Gene now.
And that's a Revelation, which is a huge draw now that the frontline medic is off the table.
Yeah. And again, you know what? Steve's just going to play another Resto Angel block here. There's just no need to verdict. And of course, if I was Steve, or what would you do if you're Steve? Would you attack for 3 here to incite another attack? I think that's what he's doing. And if he says go, I need to go tell Gene, here comes another Restoration Angel.
Yeah, I like this attack a lot because Gene's not very likely to add too much to his board once you have the Restoration Angel back on defense, so this induces another one. And if Gene doesn't play into it, then, well, you can start playing into the Restoration Angel, start clocking him for 6.
Right, and then untap, play a 6-land, play an Aetherling. It looks like you will blitz out the Blitz player here if you do that.
A 3/4 Flash Fire for 4 would actually be a reasonable card against a lot of these beatdown decks.
Yeah, definitely. I remember for a short time the green guy who has Flash, he gives all your other green creatures Flash. Yeva. I saw him get played for a little bit in the Simic decks and stuff, and it was more casual, but just watching it against Blitz, Flash creatures are just very, very powerful against him. Even in Cube, playing it to Fairy in combat is pretty fun, you know. On the Moto Cube, being able to kill 3/3s, and they really can't do much about it.
Yeah, I mean, Fire Fist Striker in these lists are already something of a concession to. It's kind of hard to get around blockers. Boros Reckoners and Smiters are troublesome to get through. Right. So, flash blockers that can get around Fire Fist Striker are quite potent, actually.
Right, yeah. It's not much in Magic that the Blitz players are willing to concede to play in order to stop that.
Gene now trying to figure out how to proceed from here. Losing that frontline medic in combat last turn, pretty rough. If he had it going into this turn, then he could attack and trigger the battalion, and even if Steve had another Restoration Angel or whatever, you wouldn't be mauled in combat, you would be treading water still.
The Blitz players don't like having 4-mana spells in their deck, but I think in this situation, Gene really wishes he had a few copies of Burning Earth, because that's pretty much the only card in Magic for Blitz that after these Wraths, you have a quality enough card to put your control opponent away.
So Gene plays a Lightning Mauler and triggers his champion, and he pairs up and attacks with the team.
Here comes another Resto, of course. Good thing Restoration Angel cannot blink other angels. That would be stupid and not fun to watch here.
It would also go infinite by itself.
Yeah. Or May ability. You know, give it a May. I think a judge would come and stop you if you kept May ability and blinking yourself.
So the Restoration Angel's going to jump out in front of Lightning Mauler, knock Steve to 8. And yeah, we might actually see 6 land and just slam Aetherling next turn.
I mean, it's pretty hard for Gene to win after that, especially sending in just one Resto Angel. You don't really see much active treason going on here, so looks like he does. Looks like I see his verdicts, I see Revelation, I see a bunch of good stuff here. Steve really in the driver's seat. 8 life is a pretty high life total to be on turn 6 against these Blitz decks.
Only sends in the 1 Restoration Angel. I like this attack. It still puts Gene on a 3-turn clock, but covers you against some very powerful mixture of cards that Gene might have in his hand.
Right. Gaining 2 life is nothing to shake a stick at, you know?
Yep.
Revelation here for 2.
Although, if the only thing that Steve has here is a Revelation for 2, an attack and a attack to 6, if he waits until the end of the turn to Revelation, he could get killed in response by a Boros Charm. So.
Right, definitely Revelation here before damage resolves to put yourself out of range of any of the hate cards Gene might have. Steve has to know is playing he looks like he's playing this deck well. He's playing a good amount of control. He probably knows that Naya Blitz always brings in Boros Charm. That's their Supreme Verdict answer. So you definitely want to play around the big out there, the glaring out there.
Yeah, no, it's very easy to get in that habit of I play Revelations at the end of my opponent's turn.
Right.
I play my removal spell at the last possible opportunity. And in here, there's a big risk if he were to wait that he could get killed by Boros Charm. So.
Right. Looks like he has a Burning Tree Emissary, and he's going to play a bunch of stuff here.
See an Emissary that triggers Champion.
Oh, he does have the Boros Charm. He does.
And that is a a Lightning Ball.
Oh, wow. This actually is going to get pretty close because even though he has a block here and then he has the Sphinx Revelation, it's still going to be pretty close.
Yep.
And remember, all he has to do is get Steve down to 4. We know Steve doesn't have any counter magic. We know, I mean, I 99% believe he boarded out all this counter magic.
So you see, Steve, it appears, has another copy of Restoration Angel in hand to block here, but that's not. He can't kill Gene on the way back, the way the board's currently constructed, and that Boros Charm is going to be basically lethal here if any 2 of these 4 creatures get through.
Right. I think he has to Restoration Angel here. No, I think he actually has to Revelation here. I think he has to hit something else, something that can dig him out of the situation.
Because he's almost certainly compelled to Supreme Verdict next turn no matter what happens.
Right.
So adding that 3rd Restoration Angel to the board is not a great use of resources.
No, definitely.
You'd rather keep that in reserve and not use it just as in essence, a chump blocker.
Yeah, let's look at the damage here. He actually is going to block the 4/4. He's going to Revelation gain 2, but he's going to get a 4. So unless he draws maybe Miracles a Terminus and then hits another Revelation to get out of Boros Charm range, he's in trouble. Steve is in big trouble here.
Yeah,
and that shows you the danger. Remember, he had that option either to play a Restoration Angel or wrath the 2 creatures on the board. By not wrathing here, he's actually put himself at a lower life total. Even though he's gotten card advantage from it, this card, he has a Celestial Flare. Didn't see that in his hand. That changes things. Actually, it doesn't change things that much. Because obviously he's going to sacrifice a 2-power creature. Steve will still block the 4-power creature. We'll go to 4 life and then be facing a lethal Boros Charm that we know Gene has in hand.
So we're going to see the Burning Tree Emissary get sacrificed. Restoration Angel determining whether he wants to chump block with it or not.
If he doesn't chump block, then he goes to 2. Actually, if he doesn't chump block, he's probably in better shape now, just looking at it. Because then he'd go to 2, if he draws a land, he can Revelation going to 5. And then he has 2 creatures against 2 creatures and will be able to survive the Boros Charm. Now, because he chump blocked, even a land won't save him. He didn't draw the land anyway. But.
So we're
going to get a game 3 here.
Supreme Verdict.
And Gene will simply untap and then Boros Charm him, and that'll be it. Probably just going to show him the Boros Charm. That's it.
And so far, we've had 2 pretty sweet games. So far, in the first game, it looked like Gene's draw on the play was just going to blow Steve out of the water. And Steve was able to miracle Terminus in that second game. It looked like Augur into Supreme Verdict was going to give, Gene all the time in the world to get his control game set up, but it was kind of a curious way that game played out. The board was never quite juicy enough for Steve to fire off that Supreme Verdict. He tried to play a damage race game when it looked like he had pretty firm control of the way the game was getting played, but Steve just had kind of an unexpectedly powerful hand in a couple of those two previous turns of Emissary into Lightning Mauler, a champion of the Parish that got reset and then got made too big to be blocked by Restoration Angel. Sort of a very specific combination of cards that Gene needed to have there to punish Steve for the way that he played that game.
Yeah.
But Gene had them, and now we're going on to a third game.
I guarantee you this game, Steve is going to be Supreme Verdicting any two creatures on the board.
Yeah, no, I mean...
Hey, you fooled me once, Shane, even though I don't think it was necessarily a play mistake, but me personally, I play the safest game possible. I will verdict two creatures. They'll play a 4/4 Rampager, let's say, for example. I'll untap and I'll verdict that if I have to. I want to keep my life total as high as possible against Blitz, and then as low as possible against the decks with less reach than Blitz has. Steve, obviously, against a non-Boros Charm there, would easily untap and stabilize. However, Gene, a couple turns before, drew the Boros Charm, had the plan set in motion, and really punished Steve for going the damage race route.
Yeah, and, Steve was just never able to play. A lot of what that game comes down to is Steve's just never able to play multiple spells in a turn. As powerful as Supreme Verdict or Restoration Angel are, that's just one thing. Right. Whereas a lot of Gene's explosive turns involved 2 or 3 cards being played. He's able to just push for this damage through Steve's more powerful cards because Steve was bottlenecked on mana. He was deploying things inefficiently.
Right. Being on the play here is huge for Steve. An Augur Bolus turn 2, like we talked about, is just really, really, really good. I noticed a lot of things when I cut Augur. I cut it because of how bad it is when you miss against John in decks like that, mulliganing to 5 pretty much a lot of times. But against this deck, who cares if you miss? A 1/3 for 2 is phenomenal. I mean, it outclasses almost all the 1 and 2 drops from Gene's deck. So it's interesting to see here if Steve has an opening hand with a couple land and an Augur. It's going to be a pretty good game, I think.
Yeah, no, my experience is playing against these various control decks, whether they be Esper or Blue-White or Blue-White-Red. Augur is a nightmare. If they hit with it, it feels very challenging to win, and even if they miss, often your draw's just not really that well set up to handle a 1/3, as silly as it sounds.
Yeah, do we even see Rampager's on his list, is it? So.
Correct, he has Mayor of Averbook to help push through. He has a couple 3/3 creatures, but he has Fire Fist Striker, which may or may not be in his deck anymore.
Right.
There's a couple combinations of cards that he can assemble to get through it, but on its own, it's a very powerful defensive tool.
Yeah, and I like Gene's build here of Blitz because it's not as greedy as a lot of the ones we've seen. You see no Rampager main, so you don't need red-green without Caverns, which a lot of people still play Boros Charm in the Rampager main when it's almost impossible to cast those 2 cards in one game together. So
Yes.
I like Gene's build here.
There's basically 2 paths you can take this deck. It's either be super conservative with the mana or be super greedy with the mana.
Yeah.
And Gene's very conservative with the mana, which is historically where I've erred as well.
Right.
You see that one of Azorius Gilgate on the first turn again, just perfect.
I love it, yeah.
Perfect.
Get ready to see a lot more Gilgates in the future here with rotation.
Champion of the Parish off of a Temple Garden opens the game for Gene.
Oh, we have a Supreme Verdict here on deck. Gene and Steve look like they kept their 7, so should have a full-powered game here.
Gene with a fairly land-heavy hand, it appears. He had at least 2 or 3 more lands in his hand. Let's see if he has any of his potential big haymakers here. Thalia could be a potent weapon.
Oh man, this Thalia is just... I cringe when I see it. I dislike it more than any other card in Magic. Gaddock Teague's right next to it in my level of dislike. There it is. Ugh. I feel bad for Steve already. I just want to go and console him.
You can see he's got an Azorius Charm in hand that now he can cycle in response or sit on and wait a turn, but he certainly can't now Azorius Charm that champion this turn.
Yeah, you definitely don't use Azorius Charm here unless you don't have a 4th land. Because it pretty much says Thalia can't attack me if Gene wants to prevent the Supreme Verdict. So you definitely just hold the Azorius Charm here.
So it looks as though Thalia has resolved. Now Gene is contemplating whether or not he wants to run this champion of the parish into potentially an opposing Snapcaster Mage, or wait one more turn to make it to a 3/3.
Yep, and that's I think Gene sends here. Waiting is not really a great thing for Blitz to do, especially next turn when he knows Charm is upon him. It's not like damage is going to get through regardless here. So yeah, he's going to send him in here and trade here.
Yep.
And Steve doing that, of course, is an auto play because I will trade a Snapcaster for a champion parish any day.
Right, and now that allows him to curve into his removal here where he can Azorius Charm this turn if he feels like, and then have Supreme Verdict at the ready. Gene contemplating his options here. Like I said, his hand appeared to be pretty land heavy when we last got a chance to check it out.
Yeah, and you know, Thalia by herself is not enough, so Gene's going to have to dedicate more to the board here. This is obviously going to get Azorius Charmed, or, oh, even better. We got better. If Gene has another Thalia here, he does not mind that at all.
Nope.
We all appreciate Wizards making Thalia a legend.
Not too much fun for that thing to stack.
No, that would just be a nightmare. All right, so
Social Fair, not the easiest on the mana, but certainly a potent tool against some of these decks.
are we seeing reminisce of what may be and after rotation? This looks like a blue-white control deck that could survive after rotation.
Yep. As we see, Boros Elite and
Second Thalia here would be good. And he's got, oh, he left it in. So
an opposing Sovereign.
Opposing Sovereign here. I think Steve will gladly Supreme Verdict these two creatures away. Obviously, Restoration Angel, much less impressive, like you said, if he says go. So he's going to pay 2 life. And here comes...
This has to be a Supreme Verdict.
The Wrath of God.
So Steve doing a much better job of keeping his head above water. He's been able to use his mana on turn 2, 3, and 4, blunting Gene's offense. So.
Right, and it looks like I think Gene has this Boros Charm, so obviously Verdict needs to happen way before Gene can untap with his lands.
See a Burning Tree Emissary here.
Gene looks like it's just going to be Burning Tree into Thalia here.
And
Tapped a little too much, but that's fine.
A slight overtap, but no harm, no foul.
Right. Looks like Steve, if he has another Supreme Verdict, he is rolling here. I think he does. Yes, he does. Is that Supreme Verdict? It looks like it. Yes, it is. Tab one more for that, Steve. Yeah, there we go.
And you see Steve not getting too greedy with his Supreme Verdicts like last game. He's
right.
With Gene running out of cards in hand, still some power in play, in hand with
Striker.
Azorius Charm and Restoration Angel. Right. He can afford to be not super greedy with his rats and leverage his life total and more powerful draws to take control of this game.
I agree, and I think Gene may have left that in mistakenly. Steve actually has to pick the card up to read it, which is not a good sign for a control player. That means has not presented too much trouble for him in his travels and testing.
I'm a big Fire Fist Striker fan, but not in this matchup so much.
Definitely
so many of Steve's creatures come in at instant speed, and the battalion forces you to play into Supreme Verdict. I like an opposing Sovereign just fine for the reasons I've described, but Fire Fist Striker I think is much harder.
I'm now on board with your assessment here. I think, obviously, I don't think you can actually leave any Fire Fist Strikers in against this deck, but opposing Sovereign does have a lot of upside to it.
So you see Steve draw a Detention Sphere, start to go beat downs with his Restoration Angel. Gene already fairly low on life. He's played 4 untapped Ravnica dual lands, so this is a 3-turn clock we're looking at.
It looks like Steve has his Azorius Charm to back it up, so we're putting Gene into the situation where he's at 18. Gene is really drowning here when it comes to outs. I don't see him pulling out of this one.
He has nothing in his deck, no Thunderbolt, nothing that can kill a Restoration Angel. So.
Right. We have a Medic, which will almost certainly be Detention Sphere. You definitely want to save your instant speed removal. You waste the bad sorcery speed stuff way early on. So here comes a Detention Sphere, I predict. It looks like Steve really knows what he's doing. I appreciate his play here. Gene also has played very well to win game 2. But then again, with Naya Blitz here, do you see many opportunities where you could have played differently? I really don't. So.
Well, and so Steve takes the match 2-1. I mean, the big question is, to me, Gene's play in the third game was very by the book, ABC.
Right.
You know, I have my champion, I attack with it. On turn 3, I have my Thalia and attack.
Yeah.
Because of the way that Steve's hand was composed, he was able to use the Snapcaster Mage as removal on the second turn, and then use a spell on the third turn as another removal spell. That allowed him to very easily curve into Restoration, Angel, and Supreme Verdict.